Good.
Honest.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Fida in review for Milan Fashion Week. And we're going to go through some of the work from, I guess, Milan fashion shows. We did Missoni, Tom Ford, Prada, Ferragamo, Fendi, and Moschino. So we're going to have a good look through what was created this week, and I'm going to jump onto Instagram. I'm going to share my screen so we can have a quick look and wander through. Let's have a look here. So you should be able to see my screen. This was Julia Balsarin for Fendi. I met Julia in Paris. I guess if anybody else has any thoughts or feedback, you're more than welcome to jump in and have a comments. This is kind of review from all of us, and it's not a critique. It's more of just us reviewing the work and having a look through. So I don't know if anybody had seen Julia's work. I think she did some more. No, I can here.
There's a Missoni.
She's got some more here. So Fendi. She did some more figure drawings.
Lovely.
It's nice to see some of these like line work. I can see a bit of inspiration from other illustrators as well, which is quite nice. And it's good to see some figure drawings. We saw, I met the team from Ungaro, and they really were looking for illustrators who draw full figure illustrations for their own house. So it's quite handy to have some of these full figure illustrations. So there is a bit of a demand for it at the moment. They can't find anyone who does these sorts of things. They've got one person they've been using for about 20 years. So there's definitely a space now for doing full figure illustration. So I think be mindful of that, because some of the feedback we've had, just to let you know, some feedback is sometimes there's too many portraits. So I think doing some more fashion figure illustrations is going to be quite an important thing moving forwards, is kind of drifting away and moving into the fashion figures. So, and here was another one that she did, which was Missoni. I quite like it on the brown paper. This is quite nice. And there's some nice details in here as well, which is good. Some of the things I'm noticing also is this picture's not been taken too bad. So the detail's quite good, as in the quality, but I'm getting sent a lot of work where there's a bit of a shadow of a person in the work. There's a big dark area and a light area where the light is bad. So if you're going to photograph your work, if you can make sure that the lighting is good, or you put it on the wall and you have some good light shining on it, just make sure that the lighting's good, because I would say 50% of the work that we showed of photographed work, like even here, you've got this sort of yellowy corner and this brown corner. If you can get two sets of lights shining on it, I think it would be better, but that's just an observation. This one's not too bad. I think this one works really well, and it's lit well and photographed well. So just some general feedback on that. That's not a member. I'll go through as we drift through as well. This is a new member, Carlotta. So she's been a little while. She works, I think, digitally and quite sketchily, which is quite nice. Quite a good illustration. It's caught it, but it's Yves Saint Laurent, so not one on the list, but quite a good figure drawing. I know she was mentioning. I think she emailed some as well, so I might pick them up. Not with us. Not with us.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, Patrick, where's the list for, I didn't see in the Zoom or around on the Slack which brands you were focused on this week.
Do you follow us? Do you follow us on Instagram?
I do, yeah. They were there instead of in the Slack.
I posted them all on Instagram.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
But that's fine. Maybe I should have added them onto Slack as well. I think I might have had a poster at the beginning. So
I just didn't think to look there to Instagram just because that was on Slack the last time, but that's fine. I'll check Instagram in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We made some posters, but I think I put the two posters together. So you may have missed it. Scaparelli is not us. Who's this? No, not us. Not us. No. No. As you see, I get a lot of stuff. Here we go. Patricia. This was Prada. I think you did some of this last week as well, which was quite nice. Some of these were really dreamy. I actually really liked these. I thought they were. This one's really nice. There's a sort of more dreamy. You're using less blacks, which I think is always quite a nice shift. It has a very pastel. Degas as well always comes to mind with this sort of pastel-y movement approach. And your color palette is sort of harmonizing a bit more now, which is quite nice. So I think there's some.
Which of them do you prefer, just as a matter of curiosity?
I guess they all have different aspects that I like. So this one I really like.
Okay.
I don't know how to stop this thing.
Don't worry. I actually got incredibly stubborn about those particular garments, and so I had like about 5 different variations.
Yeah, so this one I think is quite. These two are very arty. The third and the fourth one I think are arty, and then there's something really nice about they really subtle. Where you've not used the black, you've used all the other colors or like a deep brown or something like that. So I think they really work, and there's like lots more movement in them. I think there's something quite nice about them, and you've made them quite a little bit muscular, which I'm trying to remember the name of the sculptor. I can't remember her name, but she does these sort of. They're reminiscent of the illustrator who does black and white cartoon drawings. There's a sculptor a female sculptor. I'm wondering. I see Gemma's on here. Come on, Gemma. You might know the artist, a British artist who does legs and high heels, connected to a cartoon illustrator. Robert Crumb. Do you know Robert Crumb? Anyone know Robert Crumb?
Nope.
Right. Robert Crumb was a famous illustrator. Look him up. He's worth looking at, and inspired a lot of artists from his work. And he was a really good draftsperson. One of his best friends was Patti Smith.
Right.
So he was really well connected, strangely enough. He was a weird guy, but really worth looking at his work. But he was really good at drawing bodies and shapes, but he just used black and white pens. But he added lots of muscles in there and stuff like that. So he's quite an interesting character. And then you've got so there's some really nice ones.
Your volume has disappeared. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So overall, very good. I think there's a good mix, a good combination of different styles and techniques. I guess the one where it's walking towards me is probably reminds me of your work, this work here, this piece here. But the others ones I think are sort of moving and drifting into another zone, which I quite like. I think there's something quite good. Doesn't mean I don't like the first one.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Vibe.
Yeah, no, because I had I remember I said to you that the advice you'd given at some point last year was to look at the moving images and capture them as they turned, to kind of get the wind in their garments, for want of a better word. And so but then I got stubborn and I tried a full frontal.
Yeah, I just find the full frontal we see too much from the magazines, and it's just I just think these are much more storytelling and they're much more interesting.
Yeah.
So I just think there's it's
Way
really
to go.
good. It's
Yeah.
it is 100% is the way to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me see who else. Is this someone? Nope.
No.
Paris trip. Tamia, you did some, didn't you?
Tamio
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah, strangely, I don't know. I always tag Fida, but for some reason it doesn't show there.
Okay, let's have a look. Here we go.
Yeah, I did Miss Sony and
Did.
Fendi.
Very interesting cameo.
I
Very
really
different.
liked this concept. And you could really see how you're almost storytelling how you could be commissioned, which I really liked about it. I thought, you're looking at a pattern, and then you're looking at the pattern on the garment, and then you've incorporated the fashion illustration. So it really helps, I guess, art directors to go, this person has more than one skill, has more skills. So they like to see you're using all of your skill set. And I think that's quite important. So, and I think you've started to incorporate a little bit more computers, which is good. I think it's a positive. So I think in that Missoni one, I really liked, and you've added a little bit more animation in there as well. So well done, Tammy.
It was elegant, very elegant.
Yeah, it was great. And then this one, I really like this one.
Me too.
That's gorgeous.
This is great, and I love the print. The head, I'm thinking of sort of a combination of Brancusi with this head, or like a sculpture, and it proves we don't always need features. So I think it's quite nice that you left them out, and I'm kind of filling them in. Like this looks like an eye with a nose, so I'm using my mind a little bit more, and I think do more. I think there's definitely a space for more.
And the hands are beautifully done.
The hands are great.
Yeah, they're so elegant.
Are they collaged or just cut out in Photoshop?
Yeah, I just painted in Photoshop. Actually, originally I did it with a paintbrush, but then I decided to leave them out. The contour, the lines.
And how did you do the dress, the outfit?
Yeah, I hand draw and then I repeat it in Photoshop. I use Photoshop to repeat.
Brilliant.
And the arms are beautifully drawn, beautifully shaped.
Nice and elegant, yes. Good, very good. And it's
very proportionate, lovely.
It's your own tone of
new. It's new too. It's kind of a new vibe from Tamio.
Well done, well done.
It is. It's lovely to see. Inspiring.
The walking figures, I think you're starting to really get you're getting your groove now. I think you've really started to. These are lovely. These are lovely, really good, really well thought out. So these sort of side behind the head poses, not so much looking at the features and the details on the face, and you're really thinking about the bag. These are great. I don't think you need this big bag in the background. I don't think it. I think it's distracting. I think her walking off, the composition of where she is, and that negative space is enough. So, and I really liked the detail. This close up really worked well. So, great. I was really, I was well chuffed to see that. And I also looked at this. Where was it? The close up. I love these deals. They reminded me of ballet. And I was looking at a lot of the ads for ballet. And I think you're getting. I don't know if you know Jean Julien. Do you know the illustrator John Julian?
John Julian?
Or you might call it Jean, Jean Julien, John Julien. He's a French illustrator and has this sort of black, very graphic marks. He's really highly followed. He was 2 years above me at the RCA, and he's doing really.
I'll have a look.
He's really he does really well in Asia, so they love his sort of work. So have a look. He's
Julian, yeah.
Jean J-U-A-N, like
Yeah,
John.
John. Yeah.
And Julian is Jullien or something like that.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
John Julian. I can
Have a
find.
Junior. Okay, have
No,
a
that's
look.
cool. We'll do.
Good to know. Excellent. Was this more?
No, this was for the
This was something
incline,
else.
the
And this was
poster.
something else. And what's this one? Was this last class?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And I don't know if we had any more. Let's go and have a look back. Oh, someone's messaged me. No, nothing to do with this. Okay, so I can see if anyone else. Julia, I can see you on here. Did you do any? Oh, we looked at yours before you joined.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I think you should find my illustrations because
Yeah.
I shared all my
Yeah,
illustrations
we
today.
looked at them before you joined. I'll quickly go back to them.
Okay.
Because there was this one we were talking about, was really nice with the details, was good.
Lovely.
And I was just saying about the photography, make sure the photography's like the first one is photographed really well because it's much more flat. And then here you've got this sort of almost floodlit down to grey. So watch out how you photograph it so you don't get that sort of vignette of light. It just makes it look more amateur. So I'd rather you keep it flat like this.
Okay.
This is perfect. Like you've scanned it. It looks like you've scanned. Did you scan this?
No, actually, I didn't manage to scan it. And the first one, no, all our photos
Photograph.
just took
Okay.
with my phone.
This one was good. And then we saw this. I don't mind the setup here. And
Oh,
we were
that's
just
lovely.
looking at these full figures as well. We were just talking about it was nice to get some of the full figure illustrations as well, rather than portraits. So that was some
And
of
I think the Prada dress that I got obsessed with, I think you've done it really, really well. It looks shimmering, it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Whatever you've used there, it looks like it's a shimmering, glistening silk.
Yeah. Lovely. Lovely, Julia. I don't know if we discussed any more that you
I
did.
was curious what all of the mediums were for those illustrations,
Uh,
Julia.
Oh,
I used for the one from Missoni, I used oil pastels
Right.
and colored pencils. For those ones from Prada, I used colored pencils, and for
Right.
the scarf on top, I used just black ink. Oh, I was wondering about the black. Yeah, which you did not.
Yeah. I actually
Nice.
thought the shimmering dress, I thought it was like a
Pantone.
marker with something over it, like a
That's what I
watercolor.
thought. It was
Yeah.
like a
No,
portfolio.
just maybe I don't remember, maybe watercolors or watercolor pencils, but
And the legs are done really well.
thank you. Yeah, the figures are really nice. Really nice.
Yeah.
Like control the line.
Good. And did you do any Gemma?
Yeah, I did.
Are they
I
on
have
your? Did you
some
post
Fida
them?
worldwide. Yeah, I've only done 2 from Milan.
Did you post them on your own thing?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look.
So yeah, it was the
Good.
Tom Ford and Prada.
Good, and I quite like these oversized body forms.
You got the proportion really well because it
I
was like
usually get one shoulder bigger than the other, so it's like proof.
such is life.
I would have liked to have seen this blacked off. Yeah, it's just
completely
make it-
black.
yeah, even if you did it, you put black card there or something, but
Okay.
it's just this idea that sometimes it always just looks like a sketch, and I think with the body as like this negative space all blocked in, it would have just finished it off really cool, and then that sort of detailed illustration would then pop off the page.
You've captured the white beauty, the shadows and everything. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good to get that feedback.
This was the Prada.
I liked this one of yours as well, Gemma.
Thank you.
What have you done here? See, look here, you've blacked it out. It looks more finished, a little bit more complete. So it's quite nice.
Yeah. I
What
think
did
with the
you do?
previous one, I used pastels, and I don't normally use pastels, so I was kind of trying it out a bit. But yeah, I think it probably would have looked a bit more finished, blacked out.
What did you use for your white print marks? Was that just like a acrylic pen or something?
It was
Next pen.
yeah,
Was
it was acrylic.
Like
So
a
I painted. I drew it in pencil first, and then I used the black pastel outside, and then used the white acrylic to fill in a bit
Mm, mm.
on the actual suit.
I think your background is chalk pastel, is it?
For this one,
Yeah.
this one is
It's
acrylic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
did use
fine.
pastels
Yeah,
for
no,
this one.
sorry, pardon me, excuse me. Yeah, my mistake.
Good, and I like what I quite like from this is that the head, it's got a sort of Picasso feel to it.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember, not Vince Soli, but the artist who draws these bodies that lie down and go across the page. He's an Italian painter. I'm trying to remember. He did a lot of stuff for. He paints lots of fashion designers. He's done Warhol. He used to hang around with his Francesco something, and he's
Okay.
got very similar eyes. I'm trying to remember his name, but he had that sort of style of look and feel, which is quite nice. Because it's quite
Okay.
brave. Because people are so like critical now on how things should be very symmetrical, but here I think it adds a bit of a twist to the face, and it kind
I
of
agree.
gives it your own
Yeah.
own flavor. And I think that if we just as a bit of commentary coming from show studio really want this. They're looking for uniqueness. You know, you've been commissioned by them before, so you should know. But this idea of like they want individuality, originality, not conforming to what looks real. Almost, I don't, you know, we don't want to say GCSE style where it's perfect or A level. It's this idea of going against the grain of drawing, almost deconstructing it. So it's quite nice that you're doing these risky moves, and I think it sort of works here. So it's interesting to see. Did you do any more? This was
Just those two for Milan. Yeah.
and there was some really nice. These were really good. I was scouring through.
Yeah,
I'd like
these
to see
were
more of
for,
these.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, more figure shots. And
yeah.
if you just kind of finish them off a bit, it will feel done. And
Yeah.
kind of you've made a decision. And these ones were really nice as well. I think there's something quite good. You're
That's
getting,
very smart.
you're getting
Yeah.
into your groove, but again,
Yeah.
just finish that. And
Yeah.
then it's done. And it's like, right,
Yeah.
done, I'm complete. I can move forward. And I feel that, you know, I'll be much happier. Just
You
look.
captured her posture beautifully in that last one, the last black dress.
Thanks, Patricia.
You're
And
welcome. No,
I
it
just
looks
think,
lovely.
yeah,
Because I actually remember that.
When I look at this, it's finished. It feels finished. So and it almost feels like you're making decisions. And almost with this, even though it's sketchy and it's white, it's more decision making. And I don't mind that little block of color there. So I think it's just decision making. It's all down to decision making. And here, look how it feels complete. It feels less like a sketch. It's nice to have sketches, but it's a sketchy style mixed with something that's complete. And I like your typography. I think your type is really nice as well. So I think adding that in there adds a little bit of strength to it as well, and a bit of character. So it's like making notes. I'm a big fan of Peter Beard, where he makes like little notes on his drawings. And I think that's quite nice. So leaving these like little tags or information like you've done with Tom Ford, it could be something, you know. I'm a big fan of that. So have a look. I don't know if you know Peter Beard. Do you know Peter Beard?
Name rings a bell. I'll look him up.
He's a photographer. He was friends with Francis Bacon, and he was a fashion photographer, and he used to draw and make really heavy sketchbooks. And then he'd make notes and he'd use ink, and he was friends with Rauschenberg, and he's from that era. So I
Okay.
think it's nice. You could maybe make more notes, making
Yeah.
notes about the characters in the scene. So your notes are talking about what you're like, as if you're a buyer or something like that. So you're making visual notes, visual information.
Like a buyer's catalog.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
it gives you codes. And I think that's what makes
Personalized it too, Gemma.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's quite important with regards to the work. So let's see if anybody else did it. I think someone else joined us.
Hi.
Hello.
I can hear a hi. Renee,
Renee, yes.
did you post anything on anywhere for us to look at, or?
I did. I put that, I sent you an email, but I also have it on my Instagram.
Right, good. Let's go to your Instagram.
rlmdesigns.studio. Yep.
There you go.
So the one for Milan Fashion Week, I did Fendi, Ferragamo. This one's Boss.
So
Fendi.
This one.
There's Fendi.
That's
Fendi.
Ferragamo. Yes.
No, but yeah.
These were lovely, and I love this big leg.
Thank you.
The leg coming forward, it gives you a sense like they're walking into you, which I thought was quite nice. So, and it's good that you captured some of the people in the background. So this character is really good. I really like the scale, and you really filled the page.
And the back leg is definitely moving. You know, that kind of feeling of it swishing past you.
Yes, there's a real sense of movement here, which I thought you've captured well.
I like the lineup on the Fendi one. It's lovely.
Then you did this one.
Good for you.
These were nice on the brown paper. And are these details from the bag?
Yeah, there was a big sculpture in the runway of a
right.
Fendi bag. So I had fun with, you know, doing fashion illustration for the runways and like trying different mediums and just playing with pencils and different mediums.
Nice. I would have liked to probably seen the model and the sculpture treated in two different ways, because they're treated too similar. So where they're treated the same, I don't know what's more important, the sculpture or
bag or the
So I think if you just knock the bag back a bit, or do it in a more looser approach, I think it would distinguish between the main character and the background. I think you kind of need that, because these really pop. This sort of background pops out at you. Like these are lovely.
Lovely.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, very nice. And the turn of the head, very tasty.
Yeah, really good. And is this done digitally, or was it done by hand?
Digitally, but using colored pencil brushes.
Yeah, it looks
done
good.
by hand. Thank you.
Like
really try to stick with the same mediums I would use on paper. It just allows me to sketch anywhere at the same time.
The only thing that gives it away is this shadowing that you've got. It almost takes away from the handcraftedness.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you find a different solution for if you want to create a shadow. I would just think about maybe using a soft watercolory effect, just something light. It could be black still, but I just feel that when I zoomed in, it has that sort of Photoshop feel, where the rest of it, look how nice this is. You know, it's like pastels and markers. And then here, if you could make that more like charcoal or something like that.
I blurred it a bit.
Yeah, I can tell you did that. But it's just a case of it gives away the game.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't need to do it. I can't see the benefits to that.
Gotcha.
Apart from just you're creating depth to the image, these were really nice.
Lovely. I love the angle of the head.
What were these? Max Mara.
This was Max Mara.
Anyway, we can have a quick.
I
really like these. These are fast, rapid sketches, which are great. Yeah, very editorial. I'd love to see magazines doing more of this. I don't understand why they don't, because if I was flicking through a magazine and I saw someone really because it captures the garment and it almost captures the attitude and the feeling of the show. I don't think they necessarily need the photograph, because you can go and look at it online. So I think there's a space for this, and there will be. We're starting to really see, like we saw Richard Haynes's work, Vogue are really writing about it again. I think it's always coming back in the conversation. So you have to keep doing these sorts of drawings. And I feel that they're very relevant. And I can imagine someone like Max Mara, who I know commissions illustrators as well, Max Mara. We had one of the speakers works for Max Mara, an illustrator, would use illustration. So I really like the approach to that. And then you have the Tom Ford, which was good. So these are kind of, from these are sort of illustrations that a fashion designer would commission you to do. So, we worked with Peter Dundas. He would love this sort of stuff. Italians love these sort of highly rendered illustrations. They love them. Yeah. So
Do you think, because I play with different mediums, do you think that hurts me or shows the versatility of different mediums I can work with? Or are they looking for like one style, one medium? Or
not it depends on the objective of the viewer. But if I was an art director or a fashion designer trying to commission you, I could look at your range of skills, and then I could work out, she has a range. The only thing I'd want to see is you being a little bit more consistent, because look, you've got 1, 2, 3, and they're all totally different. And I'd go, is this one person or is this 3 people?
okay.
I'd be trying to work out who it is. So maybe.
And Patrick, does that not give the art directors diversity within one person's portfolio, within one person's remit? So if they commissioned somebody who had different styles like this, which they are, and I think that looks fantastic, but I would have seen that, or I would have understood that to be a positive, a plus for the illustrator. Whereas I'm hearing from you that perhaps one strong style is actually the way to go.
If you want to work for a fashion designer, I want you to have a certain look and identity, and then you would keep that consistently. When I worked for a brand, and I changed styles, they got rid of me.
Right. Yeah, I can hear what you're saying.
So my personal experience. So
the style they buy from you, the style that they have chosen that for you, it's like your theme song, for want of a better word.
Yes.
So if you change your theme song because you're evolving or doing whatever, they have now bought your theme song to be associated with their brand signature.
Yeah, and an agent, like my agent, he doesn't like me to diversify too much from my style. And I'm like, I've been doing that for so many years, I've worn it out. But that's me. But for a creative, you want to keep evolving. But if you could have little groups of work that you create, and then you say, okay, this is one cluster, and you maybe have, this is work that you're creating to be for fashion designers, and then you have your other work. So I think the Tom Ford drawings here and these second ones, Max Mara, I think they could kind of nearly work together because they kind of have a similar vibe. But this one here is more editorial, like a fashion designer doesn't want this.
No.
Gotcha.
It makes no sense. Where a fashion designer go, this is perfect. You're showing the front of the garment and the back.
Yeah.
So it's very useful for them to see. And they were showing me at Ungaro all their portfolios, and they were showing like, here's a print, here's the print we sell, and we show someone wearing the print where it is on the garment. And they just show front and side, and they might show 2 different styles, but it's one style of illustration. And there was thousands of them. And they did have 3 different illustrators working with all completely different styles. One was working in Illustrator, one was working by hand, but had a digital technique. And then there was another one who was very inky and drawing. So they did have 3 different styles. and they would connect them to different countries. They'd say, well, in Asia they like that style.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so it all depends on the countries that they're targeting.
That's
They would
interesting.
shift to. So I know that Italian brands would really appreciate this sort of style. They like it finished, heavily rendered. Look at Peter Dundas, where he illustrates his stuff for Beyonce and people like that. Go on his Instagram, and you'll see the level of detail that he wants. And then when we did a project with Peter Dundas, the person he picked was very similar to that style. So he kind of wanted someone like him. And that's the person. And it was actually an Italian illustrator. So they kind of are quite used to this way of working. And that's one style. And then this one I think is nice. And I think there's a place for this. And this would be someone who's more sketchy. I could imagine this more in trend books. So
I was just going to say that. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
Women's Wear Daily, whatever,
yes.
you know, any of the trend forecasting companies. That's
Yeah.
got that vibe. It's got an atmosphere.
And the other one, editorial. So I think you've got 3 placements here for your work. And similar to here, this is very editorial.
I love that. Love that. Yeah.
It's an editorial piece. So I think overall, some really nice works here. You just need to do more of it. Like this is quite nice for them to see. Like you can work for reference and imagery and sort of make from it. Some of the designers, I can't remember who it was they were talking about. They were actually talking about Ungaro, the actual real designer. And they said he used to work on the dummy, and then the illustrator would redraw his design as an illustration so that the pattern cutters could use it for reference. So he worked backwards. He designed on the dummy and then get it illustrated. So, and I think Karl Lagerfeld had a mix of that when he worked with Antonio Lopez, and he used an illustrator like a stylist, like almost photographing. So if you look at all these different ways of working, they kind of mix around. And then Holston, who we were talking to, the family, he used to do this. He was just a stylist illustrator. He would draw the collections afterwards. So a lot of designers say, could you come in and illustrate the collection? Because we want to almost show our clients that we have a handcrafted approach, to falsify it, to show that it looked like we draw it by hand and then we design it, even though they design the other way around. So it was really just to show the clients that, oh yeah, we do a sketch and we do this. That was just to tell that narrative, because it seemed weird to work the other way. But a lot of designers work that way. So they were saying Pierre Cardin did that. He kind of mixed and matched. He would.
Well, so many designers design on.
Yeah, they design. A lot of designers work direct on the model. It's quite normal. It's very rare.
They do, and it's become, it's definitely the process that's now most used. When I was going through college, it was sketch, flat, pattern cut, stand, first sample, you know. Whereas now, and when I was teaching, it was working and developing work on the stand and then taking that off to create the pattern.
Yeah, and Holston, he was a very good illustrator, but then when he became a good designer, he actually stopped illustrating and commissioned illustrators. So he had Stephen Strauss, he had more illustrators drawing.
He was working more, yeah.
Yeah, so he kind of had that he went, and then he would work direct, because he was very like working and sculpting direct. And then there'll be a sort of dialogue between the illustrator, Joe Euler. He had all these famous illustrators working for him. And if you've seen the Holston on Netflix, there's a real dialogue between designer and illustrator. And the fashion houses like Ungaro, Dior, they do have a dialogue with illustrator and designer. So there's, in the luxury houses, we see more. And I went to Yves Saint Laurent as well in Paris, and they were showing me all the illustrations that they did for Jean Paul Gaultier, Yves Saint Laurent, Paco Rabanne. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like I guess I hadn't seen so many studios when I went to Paris. I really made the most of my time. Rather than exhibitions, I went to show studios. So I went around and looked at all these showrooms. So it was really nice to see behind the scenes and kind of get an understanding. And I was really asking, what is the illustrator's role still prominent? Is it, you know, how is it going to be more into the fashion design system? And they said, yeah, we use freelancers. We work with them quite a lot. And they bring them in-house and they kind of all work together. So there is still a demand there within fashion design houses. I think if I had no kids, I think Paris would be the place for me to go and probably get a job, because I think there's a real demand to be an illustrator in Paris. For every fashion house I went to, they were talking about their illustrators. So they worked with them and they promoted them. They were like, come and have a look, see the illustrations that we do. And they were really proud of them. So that was, and I know one of our members, Harry Jones, he recently got a job at Vivienne Westwood Illustrator, as an illustrator, an in-house illustrator. So it's great that it shows some brands do really want it. So this is a positive. So it's really nice. And you know, we saw the Jessica Bird stuff for Versace as well. So there's a real demand that's kind of coming. So did I miss anyone else? Is anyone else on here that I've missed?
I wonder if you could have a look at the illustration that I did. I sent it to you guys, and it's also on my page. And it was not Fendi. It was, can't remember now who it was. I should have a look at my phone.
Oh, look, I'm here. Look, I'm on.
All right, there you go. This one.
This
Not, yeah, that one. Yeah. It was Iceberg. Yeah, Iceberg. The person who's striding out. No, go back up. There you go. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I told you I liked this one, and I sent you some reference. Do you remember? I messaged you privately?
No. Sorry.
I think you responded to me, but you obviously didn't take on board what I was saying. There was a painter who used to paint for Yves Saint Laurent, and I'm trying to remember his name. If you look in your phone, I think I sent it via me rather than
right. Okay, yeah.
And it was to look at this artist who had this technique.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very relevant for you to have a bit more reference from an art point of view.
Yeah.
And it's good to have reference. It's not a bad thing. I think sometimes we see it as bad, but this one really stood out to me. And I thought, even though you were using very black shapes and lines, from the last meeting we had, I liked the idea that you kind of listened and then you thought the big character in the front, because I can't remember who did this. I think it was Tomeo did a huge.
It was Tomeo, yeah.
Did a huge figure.
Yeah.
And you've used that information and remembered it, which is good. So you've got this big character and a little character, and I think that's quite nice. This sort of combination of huge and small, and it gives you a real sense of. And these are almost, I could imagine, being for a book rather than an editorial, more for a book about fashion design and something like that. So I think there's a real space for this. And I've sent you that reference, so it would be nice.
I'll check that up. Yeah, I'll check that up.
Yeah, and
I really love this. I just wanted to tell you, Patricia, I think this is so
thank
cool.
you so much. Thanks
It's really solid. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's complete, and I think it's done. But what I try to kind of consider is where would this be placed in the industry? And when I say this is as a book, like I have books by Matisse where there's poems. I have books by Hockney, which is about literature or poems, or there's a connection. And you could be thinking about, use your Irish roots. Come on, think about if an Irish person saw this and they had to write a poem or a story or a piece about this, you could imagine this being printed on like old newsprint paper, that yellowy paper. Got this illustration on the right, and then on the left there's just some small words talking about maybe the color, the mood, the feeling, and then put them together and see how they work as a book. And then you help art directors imagine how your work could be used in a context. And I think that is our job sometimes, because a lot of art directors don't have the imagination. So here you're kind of force feeding them, and you have that sort of little black outline around the outside, and it almost frames it quite nicely, almost like an etching. So I think that would be really nice. That's how I see it. But it's trying for me to use like an art director's brain of where would I see this and how could it be put into the context of being used in the real world. And I think that, and then that's how you get commissions. You only get,
You know, a good, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, like, a good way to think of that just popped in my head is like, it's like staging. How do you stage your work visually for people? Like, do the work, what you're saying, to make it easy for them to make the leap between, oh, here's a pretty picture, and oh, this would look great in my magazine.
Yeah.
exactly.
Like the way you stage an apartment that you want to
Absolutely.
sell or rent or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like
Good
a proof of concept. And I think a proof of concept is so important to help art directors go, oh, I saw you did it, and I saw how it worked with a text, you know, like in a book or something, or in a catalog or something like that. So I think staging it is a really good way of putting it. Stage the and use your basic skills. If you don't have all the skills, it quite easily you could say it could be with a, you know, go and photograph a book and just see how it looks and put them together and go, okay, so I've got some books at home. Here's a page. Here's the page on the right. I'll put it within the book and then just have a look. And you could easily do that in Procreate, you know, cut and puzzle it together. Do it, and
So-
quite crudely. It doesn't have to be amazing, just to have a look.
So almost like Photoshop the illustration in a book.
Yes.
So like, okay, so like, because I'm starting out and it's like, how do you get someone to want your sketch? And like, so staging your work and proof of concept, like that's really interesting. And like almost sending that, or how would you kind of stage that? Like if you want it to look like it's in a showroom, do I just use my blank wall and do it myself? Or like kind of like, how do I set that up to get clients?
Well, I think you just said is you set the scene and you go, okay, do I use my own house? Is there images online? I think we're seeing a bit too much of people putting their artworks in different rooms. I think that's overcooked now. So I think, where do you really imagine this piece going? You know, it could be on a card, you know, this could be a handout, a show, and then it has like the logo on it, and it could be something that's like an invitation. So you're kind of thinking about the different ways that this illustration could be used. If you follow Paris, who do lots of invitations, do lots of design, they'll photograph their work like a graphic designer would do, and they would say, this is how the illustration would look like on an invitation or on a postcard. And would you use, like, would this be framed with shiny black where the illustration is quite matte? Would this be on a rough card or textured? Like, how that is where the next part of your skill set is, to imagine where would this illustration really work? Could it be quite small rather than big? So I'm thinking like in a small normal handbook, A6 size, so it's quite small. And then you've got a little bit of text. You can go to a charity shop, buy a book, put it flat, photograph it, make it look presentable, and then just cut out and put your illustration in Photoshop or in Procreate, whatever it is. You can, in Photoshop, you could stamp out the text on the right-hand page and then just overlay it on the page and then multiply it. So there's...
Can I like kind of fake it, like almost as it's like a magazine article, and kind of put my own like title and that's good.
So a lot of people stage it because they help the art directors not have to imagine. Because the minute you start going, well, if you use it like this, they'll go, I can't imagine. So it's really staging it and showing what the capabilities are for the art. So I think that's a next sort of step for you, Patricia, because then that gets you into the space of getting your work published. That's
great.
the goal.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think is that everybody? And Mackenzie, your job is to send some, and the next time you're going to be front of house, and we'll go through you first. But
That sounds good. I did post one after the fact from last week if you want to look at it, but you know, I was past the date, but
is it on your page or on my
I
page?
I sent it, I tagged you guys in it and I saw it in your tags when you were in your tag
Okay,
section. So
let's have
you
a
should
look.
be able to see it there. It's a yellow piece from David Coma, who I wasn't aware of him, and I'm like so in love now. I like really big, dramatic, colorful things. So it's like a
you stop me.
yeah, keep going. You're so popular. Get so many things. Yeah, there you go. Yep, up a little bit, and it's on the right, and it's yellow. This
Oh, yeah.
African American.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Nice. Let's just have a look.
Actually, maybe not African American, but yeah, person of color.
And you've done
Yeah, so this was really fun because I actually haven't played that much with inks, like bottled inks. I've done mostly marker and some colored pencil, but I like marker and ink just like in pen form. And I had actually just gotten some like Higgins black ink, and I had already done this illustration a few times. And normally I do kind of like fast things. I don't copy people's work a lot. Like it's new for me to actually look at an image and try to imitate that or create that in as an illustration. So this is actually challenging for me. But I was really excited because I actually had so much fun with like the Higgins art bottle. They have like a unique dropper design that's like very straight. And I actually used that dropper to do this whole piece. I didn't use a brush until I was actually coloring it in. So that was really interesting.
Have you seen there was one of the illustrators we worked with, Pep Munez. Do you know him?
Yes, I love I follow him. Yeah. His work's really cool.
So he uses the dropper and he's made it almost part of his process. So, you know, I'm looking at your work and that sort of long shaped figure. Yours are a little bit more finished than his, but you know, you're using that sort of similar design to him. And the reason I was mentioning him, because he really now is starting to imagine how he does his reels, his videos, his content, and you know, the way he staged this. I would like to see, and we've done this with Tomeo and various people, how you would document your work being actually made, the process.
Yeah.
I think that would
I've
be
been filming almost everything I do. I think when I did this one, I didn't film it. Possibly my phone was out of battery or the table was shaking with I need a better camera setup, but yes, I will make sure I do that more consistently. But I'm pretty consistent. I think I did this one quickly and I didn't expect it to actually be any good. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. It won't be good.
No,
So I was like, oh, that's fine.
Great. Yeah,
I'm really happy with it. Thank you.
Yeah,
It was just fun.
Good, and the colors are good, and I think it's quite an interesting. And I would like to see, I guess, you playing with the dynamics of the body a bit more, like because it's still quite stiff, and even though the actual pose is it, if you look at the top of where the dress is at the front, at the skirt is a little bit more angular. It gives a bit more attitude to the actual walking. So
You're
here.
right.
You can actually see the curve, and yours you've got it quite straight
across.
It makes her feel quite passive, where here is the attitude. So that's the one thing is I'd want to see more attitude in this.
Okay, cool.
And that comes from the swinging of the hips. Swinging of the hips.
Totally.
So
I usually have things that are a lot more kind of like offset and dramatic, and this was a safe choice because I feel like I'm good at only like 2 poses, and most of the work I do is either front facing or slightly to the side, and I don't do really anything else. So the next pieces that I pick, there's more movement, and I'm gonna make sure that I work on that because I don't feel like I'm very fluid in more than like a couple of stances.
Good. And even see you've got these sort of colors in the background. It would be nice to see you just testing them out with some sort of.
I did backgrounds for the other like 3 versions of this that I posted, but I just didn't do it for this because I was like afraid to ruin it. After I got to that point, I was like, oh, I should leave it alone. But yes, I will definitely do that.
You could easily photograph it and then add in like colors afterwards. So don't just end because I do that many times where I'll just go, okay, I don't want to ruin it, so I'll photograph it. And then I might work on Photoshop, or I'll do other layers and then puzzle it together. And I think that would be a nice, because I feel like it could feel more grounded as a piece.
Totally.
with that sort of
Yeah.
back, that lovely mood.
Yeah,
It
she's
almost
just floating in
frames it.
space. We don't
And
know.
look at the lovely
I
reflection.
know.
Yeah,
Love
there
that.
is a really
Yeah.
cool reflection.
Yeah,
Yeah, I caught some
wanna
of that
see
in my other pieces.
Yeah, so
Okay, got it.
good. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Great.
Right, so well done, everybody. Some great stuff, and
Thank you.
thank you
Thanks
for
for your
turning
time,
up.
Patrick.
Thank you.
We've had lots of fun
Thanks,
doing
everybody.
these.
Thanks a lot.
Good. Have a good
Thank
night
you.
and well done.
Okay, mind yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.